if admin enroll approve. If you are writing code like this, then you are doing authorization wrong. This is how it starts, but then 6 months later, you're drowning in permission bugs, broken features, and late night debugging sessions wondering why Bob from finance is writing code to your production database. In this video, I'll tell you exactly why this is not the way to do authorization. Let's dive in. Let's talk about code. Every line of custom authorization you write is code that needs to be tested, maintained, and reviewed. And of course, that needs to be paid for. Writing code costs time, maintaining code costs money, and not writing tests, well, that costs security. Writing custom authorization logic is also hard to evolve. One day, your CTO says, we need fine-grained access control for every document this quarter. What do you do then? That's when your current setup becomes technical debt, and you realize you have to rip out your entire authorization model while still shipping new features. And this is even worse if you're a polyglot shop, because if your code base is in different languages, you have to write custom authorization logic in Go, Node.js, Python, and Java. Or of course, you can bolt it onto a monolith and then expose it over an RPC or a microservice. And suddenly your simple permission check has a full-blown dependency graph. In a distributed system, you basically want multiple computers to act like one computer. But here, every service ends up doing its own flavor of authorization. Tiny little differences creep in, which of course then can lead to security errors. Because remember, authorization bugs are security bugs. One wrong if statement and suddenly your customer's information is leaked. Now try explaining that to your CISO. We also need to talk about the human element because authorization is a human problem. If you're writing an internal app, who are the people who decide who gets access to what? Typically HR, team leads, and so on. If you're writing an external app, who decides who gets access to what? Maybe compliance, product managers. But who's writing the code? You, the engineer. And these two worlds typically are not connected. So your access logic becomes this graveyard of out-of-date roles and guesswork. Also, your organization is not equal to your code base. Code is structured around things like business logic and services and functions. But access is structured around teams, departments, and projects. So trying to reflect one in the other is really trying to fit a square in a microservices-shaped hole. It's not going to work. Now, the code snippet I showed you in the start of the video implemented role-based access control. And RBAC starts off simple, but suddenly maybe marketing wants a custom dashboard or one particular customer wants access to only a certain feature. And suddenly you have this role explosion. You've got 50 different roles, all hard-coded across different endpoints. And if you want to change one, well, enjoy your weekend deploy cycle. And also, let's be real, authorization research has been going on as long as database research. And you really wouldn't build your own database, would you? Please say no. We also need to talk about performance and scale because authorization has to be fast and always available as it's on the critical path. For this, you need caching, low latency access checks, and redundancies. Now, none of this is a simple weekend project. This is all infra-level code that has to be bought in by your organization. Now, before you flame me in the comments, here's a caveat. This all makes sense only at a certain level of complexity and scale. But let's face it, when we write code now, we automatically think of planet-level scale. So why are we talking about this now? Well, the simple truth is authorization has gotten harder with the requirements for fine-grained permissions, microservices, and even more collaborative features. Also, the cost of getting something like this wrong has exponentially increased. Having thousands of if statements or an SQL statement with 12 different joins is no longer enough. And I'm just a guy on the internet. Why would you believe me? Well, OWASP publishes a list for the top 10 security risks for web apps. And guess what's at number one? Yep, that's right. It's broken access control. In fact, if you go back and look at the three lists published in the 2010s, broken authentication was consistently in the top three. But we as an industry decided never to write our own authentication logic. And lo and behold, currently, identification and authentication failures has dropped down to number 7 in the same list. So what's the alternative to writing your own custom authorization logic? Well, OWASP themselves recommend adopting an attribute-based access control ABAC or relationship-based access control REBAC authorization model. And there are different ways you can implement this in a way that is centralized, scalable, and fine-grained. And you can also use open source tools while you're at it. Do you have any horror stories from the world of authorization to share? Well, drop it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more content on authorization. And lastly, remember, just because you can write your own authorization doesn't mean you should. See you in the next one.